Napenda kwenda shule hiyo. Angalia kubwa kadhaa. Napenda kwenda shule hiyo.
Dar es Salaam, haven of peace, de facto capital of Tanzania, a country of 27 million, a city of contrast, a modern deep-water port with many vestiges of the past.
Karibu sana Tanzania, Mr. Steven.
Hello, I'm Steve. Join me, John, and Saraz for a month-long safari into the Selous, Africa's largest reserve. We will outfit our truck here in Dar es Salaam, traditional starting point for most East African safaris.
Mambo.
Oh, we're lucky it didn't break the drive shaft.
Okay.
You have enough hardware.
Yeah.
You don't understand what I'm saying, do you? Yeah. That's what I thought. We've traveled south to the ferry crossing to Atete, a small town on the Rufiji River. The Rufiji is East Africa's largest river, but considered unnavigable due to waterfalls and gorges upriver. The Rufiji is presently low due to drought, but we will look for a motorboat in Atete and take a short trip upriver. How much was the ferry charge?
We give them 5 liters of diesel.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Very reasonable.
And then when we return back, we're supposed to give them another 5 liters.
Who lives here?
Oh, she's that woman.
Oh, this is where you cooked our dinner last night then?
Yes.
Oh, what is her name?
What's her name? He called me Wajabu Kisinga.
Oh.
Kinangkumba kanupiga picha. Ate kubana waikolo amen likombe niwe. Video ko na ko pita. Keleji kai. Ba bini ataja waka pa yake sai.
Here at Atete, we will look for a boat to hire for a 3-day trip up the Rufiji River. We've been told the only motorboat around this area is owned by a nearby leper colony. Jane, who runs a leprosarium, is away, and we await her return here. All travelers in this region must use the ferry crossing and come through Atete. This building was built by the German Empire. It is about 100 years old. It presently houses the offices of the district commissioner. Siraj is talking to Jane, who runs this leprosarium outside Utete. Leprosy is a curable disease, but lepers are still shunned, so they gather here together in this small village. We will camp nearby at these hot springs while Jane prepares a boat that will take us up the Rufiji River. These waters are very clear and are about 130 degrees Fahrenheit. A good source for drinking water and bathing. This is the Rufiji River. Here are several other rivers in Selous that run all year long. During a normal rainy season, there are countless rivers and streams. We are headed up the Rufiji River with our boatman, Babu. Babu is a Swahili word for grandfather. I assume it is a term of respect. We are a great distance from Selous Reserve by water. The Rufiji is considered unnavigable, and few explorers found it helpful in entering this region.
Hatuna masikitiko kwa kuwa watu wa amani yelele. Kama una chuki na sisi wewe, Tanzania nchi yetu mambo wa.
The river has a large population of hippo and crocodile, which they share with the many people who live along its banks. Even getting water can put one at risk of a dangerous encounter. This older gentleman found drawing water with a 15-foot pole gave him the edge he needed. We have stopped at this small shop to pick up supplies. Due to the drought, there is no rice or other foodstuffs available. All they seem to have on the shelves are sportsman cigarettes. Normally this time of year would bring lots of rain. These small fields have been planted in anticipation of the rainy season. Usually January would bring too much water. These villagers are subsistence farmers and have few reserves for hard times, but the nearby Rufiji River never runs dry and can supply some of the needs for the large number of people who live along its banks. This is the bank of the Rufiji River during a normal rain season. The actual bank is about a half a kilometer away. Siraj says if the rains don't come, people will die. Probably not an exaggeration in this part of the world. The river is very shallow here, and even our small motor cannot be used. The river is still quite wide, but it is difficult to pass without disturbing the hippos, who can hide only in the occasional deep pool of water. We are outside the Selous Reserve, But there are still many hippos and crocodiles who live together with the people who call the Rufiji River their home. Here, a young hippo was found dead floating down the river. Local villagers are not letting it go to waste. Although this crocodile-infested river seems a poor choice of places to butcher meat, this windfall of protein will not be shared by the Muslims in the village. It is against their religion to partake of pig, elephant, or hippo. This is as far as a boat safari can be taken into the Selous. Stickler's Gorge poses an obvious navigational obstacle. Anyone traveling by boat would have to turn back at this long chain of cataracts. We have returned to our truck to continue our safari. We have traveled all day on our approach to the eastern gate of Selous and have not seen another vehicle. We will camp here for the night. We are about 1 hour away from the entrance to Selous. There's no water in the park at all. Just hippo pools, unfilterable, undrinkable. So we'll take about 100 liters of water. It should last a week if we don't take a bath. Here in the eastern sector of Selous, there is an unseasonable drought going on. This water hole is the only water we've seen in the last 16 kilometers. When I was here last year at this time, this whole area was underwater and the roads were impassable because of flooding. The rains did not come to this part of Selous. The Marara River. This is Lake Utonga. Normally 2 or 3 times this size during this month of January. The rains are late this year and water levels are down. We will spend a few days at this hunter's camp and watch the animals who must come here to drink. Wild and untouched by people, Selous Reserve contains the largest concentrations of buffalo, elephant, crocodile, hippo, and wild dog. There are also significant numbers of lion, rhino, antelope, and bird species that number into thousands. Poaching was a problem at one time, but is now under control. A 2-year period saw the slaughter of 20,000 elephants. With the ivory band in place, numbers have rebounded, and some people put the population at 100,000. Probably an overly optimistic number, but seeing a herd of several hundred is not unusual. Selous Reserve contains complete ecosystems. It supports large animal numbers that never have to migrate out of the reserve to find food or water. Selous Reserve has few visitors. It comprises an area of 20,000 square miles, making it almost 3 times the size of the state of New Jersey. It is the world's second largest protected area, and only Woods Buffalo Park in Canada is larger. Only the northern tip of Selous has been sufficiently explored. The rest of Selous is mostly trackless wilderness. During the rains, travel in Selous is impossible because of floods and swollen rivers. Most travel is during the dry season, when rivers can be forded by truck. But, as in most of Africa, the rain can be unpredictable. Selous is named after Frederick Courteney Selous, an English explorer, naturalist, writer, and elephant hunter. Selous spent most of his life in southern and eastern Africa. He was a white hunter for Theodore Roosevelt and also led settlers sent by Rhodes into Rhodesia, now called Zimbabwe. During World War I, Selous joined the army and was made a captain in the 25th Royal Fusiliers. He died in battle at the age of 64 while advancing on a German position on the Bayou River. His grave lies just north of the river. The northern part of Selous was established by Kaiser Wilhelm in 1905. Selous received its present name in 1922 and its current size in the 1940s, when the remaining tribes were moved out by the government to combat a sleeping sickness epidemic. We have been camped here at Lake Utunga for 3 days and have used up over half our clean water. The lake water is so fouled, I cannot filter it with my system. So we will head back and pick up some clear water on our way to the northern sector of Selous. The area that Selous occupies has never been heavily populated because of the tsetse fly. The people who lived here also endured the tribulations of the slave caravans during the 1800s. Men, women, and children were forced to carry ivory to the coast, along with the mango fruit needed to subsist on during the trek. There still exists to this day a noticeable planting of mango trees along that route, sprouted from the discarded pits.
Afrika ya hunguruma, Afrika ya hunguruma, Afrika ya hunguruma. Yelele Afrika ye, ucheze ngoma zako, watu wakusikie. Yelele Afrika ye, uwinde kama simba, watu wakusikie. Ya ya ye, ya ya ye, ya ya ye.
We are in the northern tip of Selous, which contains 5 camps, all privately run and all over $100 per person, meals inclusive. Selous only receives about 2,000 visitors a year, and virtually all of them come to these camps. Each of these camps has an airstrip, but a few hardy souls arrive here by truck. The trip overland from Dar es Salaam takes 10 hours over badly maintained dirt roads. The camps have daily game drives, and the boat safaris are a real bonus. The Rufiji River teems with hippo and huge crocodiles, which are easily approached by boat. I find the walking safaris the most exciting. You are accompanied by an armed game scout, and wandering around in the bush will guarantee chance encounters with all variety of game, large and small. These camps, all within a few hours of each other, are the only facilities for tourists in all of Selous' 30,000 square miles. Visitors to the rest of Selous must bring everything they need to be totally self-sufficient. We left the Game Scout camp without a guide, thinking we wouldn't get lost in this less remote area of northern Selous. Think again. The day's almost over, and John and Siraj don't like the looks of this hyena at our campsite. Hyena and lion share the same territory.
Yeah. Oh, I'll get it.
Well, we're lost. We were supposed to be at Bayo Bayo camp. We couldn't find it in the dark last night. We drove around for a few hours because Siraj and John did not want to camp here. This is lion country. They slept in the truck. I slept in my pup tent. I didn't sleep at all. Well, I must have slept some. This is the reason we didn't sleep. This buffalo kill was made a few hundred feet from where we made camp. We didn't know the lions were here until we broke camp and headed down the road. I did hear the buffalo crashing through the brush about 1 o'clock in the morning and suspect that's when the kill was made. This is a baobab tree. These trees have enormous wide gray trunks and also bear an edible gourd-like fruit. They are common in the interior and coastal savannas of Africa. This particular tree must be ancient. We were lucky not to have happened upon this pride of resting lions while on foot. Lions are the one animal that do not seem concerned with the approach of man. Selous has male lions that have very small manes, not seen in other parts of Africa. Found these in the road. Actually, Sarad saw them. Some old rounds have been in the ground for a long time. He suggested German army, but that would be World War I. It's possible. About 3 dozen rounds. During World War I, when the British and German armies fought over this ground, the game was so scarce the men almost starved. Selous presently contains one of the biggest concentrations of animals in Africa. Here in the northern sector of Selous, hunting is forbidden, and the animals are habituated to the presence of people and easily approached. In the remainder of Selous Reserve, hunting is permitted, but large populations of elephant and buffalo, along with most other species, abound. Animal population estimates vary, but most say elephant numbers are at 30,000, buffalo 200,000, and wildebeest at 80,000, with a significant number of rare African hunting dog and black rhinoceros. Selous is divided into 2 unequal parts by the muddy Rufiji River. Here, north of the Rufiji, is a relatively small area most people see. The remainder of Selous is a remote expanse and seldom visited. A 4x4 can be taken into the area during the dry season, but there are few tracks to follow, and walking would probably be as easy as taking a truck. We are leaving the northern sector and heading out of the reserve to approach the western gate of Selous. The higher altitude ensures more rainfall, and the countryside will appear noticeably greener. This is Ifakara, Siraj's hometown. We will pick up provisions, rice, vegetables, and small tins of meat before we continue our journey. These are the Maasai, a pastoral people who originally occupied northern Tanzania. When the Serengeti was formed, they were displaced and came south with their cattle. They are presently spread to most parts of the country where their cattle find suitable pasturage. Their traditional diet does not contain the beef they raise, but cow's milk and blood removed from their cattle from a small nick made in their jugular.
Yang orangnya adalah yang di atas yang mana sila yang orangnya.
This is the ferry at the Kilimanjaro River. The Kilimanjaro, Rufiji, Luegu, and Great Ruha form Africa's largest river basin. We are presently in an area west of Selous Reserve. It is flat farmland and contains large fields that produce abundant yields due to a more consistent rainfall.
Kama simba watu wakusikie, Iyelele Afrika ye, ucheze ngoma zako watu wakusikie, Iyelele Afrika ye, uwinde kama simba watu wakusikie, iya ya hiye, iya ya hiye. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hiyo imekalia kwenye display hapa. Tukishatoka hapo kwenye display hapa.
We are in the western sector of Selous, and the terrain is much hillier. Travel becomes much more difficult by truck, and 20 to 30 miles may represent a day's travel. Some of these loose rock trails make me wonder how the truck will manage the return. We will probably have to unload the supplies and between the four of us push the truck back up this hill. This is a Game Scout camp at the western entrance to Selous. It is staffed with about a dozen Game Scouts, a tractor, and a few buildings. It is their job to protect an area of several hundred square miles. There are usually small villages that sprout up around the Game Scouts camp. There is a government-dug well to be shared by all, and the presence of armed Game Scouts provides some protection from elephant and lion. These obstacles are common along the track into this part of Selous and require skill to traverse. They are caused by flooding during the last rainy season, and with few people coming this way, it is impossible to know what's ahead. John is very experienced with four-wheel drive trucks. There are few paved roads in Tanzania, and passenger automobiles are the exception and not the rule. We just tore the clutch out of our truck and are stuck in this dry riverbed. We are well into the reserve and at least 35 miles from the Game Scout camp. John has volunteered to walk out with the Game Scout to get help. They did take half our water supply but refused to carry food or a small tent. I made the cardinal mistake, thinking we'd be by a well today. I used all the water to take a bath and wash my clothes. We do have enough drinking water, but it's always best to have too much, and we don't have that. So let's go look for some. I'll be back. I'll venture up this dry riverbed as far as I dare, but I won't go into the bush at all because I'll probably get lost. There's no water up that way. There's some water here yet. Where did we see some water when we came in? That was clean.
Oh, about 5 kilometers back.
This way?
Yes.
Oh. That's 3 miles. I'm gonna walk for 3 miles. Well, maybe it's best just to stay out of the sun and wait. Not use any water. Of course, we could try our F86 on that stuff. That stuff is the very foul remains from the last rains. It would probably kill us if we tried to drink it. Boy, this looks delicious. You can't get water like this at home. Nope. It's a rare combination of crocodile pee, hippo slobber, and that black stuff between buffalo toes. All stirred up and fermented. Yum, 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 yum. My underpants got out the big critters, but it's the ones you can't see that kill you. We'll add a couple of chemicals and try to get the particulate to settle out so we can filter this water. All we can do now is clear a spot for our tent and settle back for a day or two and wait for help. The chemicals did drop the particulate out of the water, and we have managed to filter it, so we're all right in that department. But the sun's going down along with my spirits. If help doesn't arrive in 2 days, I've decided to walk out myself. I do have the shotgun for protection, but it seems inadequate for any of Africa's dangerous animals, known as the Big Five. Here comes the Tanzanian AAA. Turn your wheel, John! Turn the wheel! No brakes. And when this pole slips off the truck, we'll have no radiator. But we got to try it. We managed to get the truck back to the Game Scout camp. After several days of traveling, John returned with a clutch disc and brake pads. We put our truck back together and are heading back into the reserve toward the Luegu River.
Watu wenye amani kuna asiyetufahamu. Yeah. Tumejaliwa amani tangu miaka mingi na Mola. Hatuna masikitiko kwa kuwa watu wa amani. Yelele.
We are camped here on the Luegu River. This will be the farthest point we penetrate into the reserve. The river is too deep to ford by truck, and no man would dare the crocodiles by wading across. This is an abandoned hunting camp used only during the dry season. These grass walls provide some protection from the animals. An elephant or buffalo is less likely to wander into camp accidentally. We will stay here a few days and take game walks in the surrounding bush. You can ford the river by truck during the dry season, but on the other side there are only animal tracks, and roads are virtually non-existent. On occasion, a well-heeled hunter may send an advance party deeper into the reserve. They clear a makeshift airstrip, and a Cessna flies a great white hunter in and out without ruffling his feathers. These are the remains of the wheeled carts I plan to use if the rains made the roads impassable by truck. We are fortunate it's dry and we can use the truck to bear our burdens and not our backs. The game near the Luegu River is much shyer than in the northern sector where they are completely protected. The elephants here are occasionally hunted and trust men very little. Only elephants past their breeding age are taken, the old tuskers that one rarely sees. Unfortunately, these older elephants have a value to the herd beyond their propagation abilities. Their knowledge of Selous, accumulated over a long life, is essential to the herd during drought and duress. We are about 400 yards from these elephants, and the Game Scout won't take us any closer. The elephants have not spotted us yet, but once they catch our scent, they will all leave as one. People occupied this area at one time, but a chain of events displaced them and made room for Selous Reserve. In the 1890s, this area suffered from a series of natural disasters. Drought and a plague of locusts brought famine and disease in their wake. The population of Tanzania is thought to have decreased significantly between 1890 and 1914. These events, from slave caravans, natural calamity, and politics, have carved out Africa's largest reserve from a now heavily populated Tanzania. Tanzania is a poor country and relies on tourist and hunting revenues to support this large reserve. Due to the remote nature and total lack of facilities, few paying visitors come to southern Selous. No one knows what the future will bring, and we can only hope this area remains intact and protected. After independence, the government of the United Republic of Tanzania extended some protected areas and created a considerable number of new ones. In the Arusha Manifesto of 1962, the government outlined its policies. The survival of our wildlife is a matter of grave concern to all of us in Africa. These wild creatures and the wild places they inhabit are not only an important source of wonder and inspiration, but are an integral part of our natural resources and our future livelihood and well-being. In accepting the trusteeship of our wildlife, we solemnly declare that we will do everything in our power to make sure that our children's grandchildren will be able to enjoy this rich and precious inheritance. The conservation of wildlife and wild places calls for specialist knowledge, trained manpower, and money, and to other nations to cooperate in this important task, the success or failure of which not only affects the continent of Africa, but the rest of the world as well.
Listen to me now. She did all the good thing in this world, but nobody cared about a thing. She was the mother of the universe. Whatever she did was for the benefit of the others. That's the way mine. When desire go, who sing all day? Shukrani.
We are camped here on the Luegu River, 50 kilometers from the western entrance. The road stops here. Across the river, trackless wilderness. 100 miles across in places to the eastern edge of the reserve. Little explored, no one goes there. Home to 30,000 elephant, 80,000 buffalo. This ends our trip to Selous. Join us next year when we cross the Selous on foot.